Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Your host Dan here from F1. Welcome to Fridayfunda. Yet another very interesting speaker with a very diverse fields he has kind of experience with. Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for. Sorry, it just got repeated. So yeah, so we have Kiran Kulkarni. Yeah, so he has two sides of the coin, right? So currently he leads consumer experience for PayPal, but lately he's like spending a lot of time on this very interesting thing called Indic style board games, and which actually inspired him to co-found this company called Tacit Games, which he's going to walk us through the kind of nuances on trying to figure out kind of a board game, right? Especially with this angle of Indic thing over there, right? So Kiran has a wide experience, more than 15 years of experience in general in design, product design, architecture, more towards research. He also had did kind of teaching as well. I mean, in terms of education, he also was almost a couple of years he taught in IDC as well, right? And lately, like towards this, apart from the consumer side, focusing upon the game design part, right? And he has a bachelor's degree from architecture, and also he did a product design at IDC ID Bombay. So let's understand, what goes behind this nice board gaming designs, right? So yep, thanks Kiran for being part of this session. Over to you.
Hey, thanks, Diane. It's pretty weird here. Am I visible? Can
Yes, yes,
everybody see?
yes, you're visible, and yeah, people can see you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's good to be with Diane here. Last time we met in IDC, it's pleasure to kind of connect with him back. Uh, and quickly, I think I could just talk over my quick story on some new thing we've been doing. It's been fun. I thought I could share the whole design process, some interesting findings we've been doing when we kept doing board games and the whole journey. It's so weird that I can't see anybody. It looks like almost I'm talking to myself. Feel
That's
free to
right, right. So it's basically
I know.
a webinar session. So yeah, but people, the folks can punch in their questions in the Q&A section. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Let me just share and start off. Um, some. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Kiran. Yeah, we are good.
Awesome. All right. Yes. So I thought today we could spend some time trying to understand everybody is designing for UX. My background is UX. My background is product design. My background is architecture. But lately we've been spending time on how to design for a play. I mean, what I mean by like how does play really work? What does it involve? How do we design gameplays that really delight, that engage people? It's a very interesting interaction design situation because it's real, it's live, there are no screens, it's physical in physical space, and it's just interesting how people really get engaged with certain kind of situations we create in what we call as designing for play. So I thought I would just walk you through my journey, just to give you a quick background. As Diane was already talking about, I did all kinds of jobs. I've been a researcher. I've been teaching. I co-founded VLive. It was a mobile video platform, and I co-founded a studio called Tacit, and now I've kind of co-founded Tacit Games, which is in sort of an extension of my studio, our studio called Tacit. Currently, I also worked with some organizations in Mobi. I was product designer on Let's Venture, and I currently work leading consumer experience in PayPal. I lead teams for the most used parts of PayPal product, if that's the activities, profile, a complete new redesign we are looking at in next year. I'm leading that in pieces of this. And then something called as a rapidly emerging market. So that's my day job. But this whole idea of games started a long time ago when I was actually teaching in IDC Professor Atwankar, actually kind of we got together and we thought about this whole idea of an elective for doing games. So it was so interesting because it was, it was easy. It was about cutting some papers, putting it onto the board, trying to put some rules and see how things really work. It started like some sort of experiment, and then very interestingly, I deep down on studying ludology and readings around game design and development. This was 2004 time when we started the game design elective. It was sort of, we conceived it in first that time. It was not there before in IDC, and it actually was a very successful elective. It continued for almost the next few almost a decade, and very interesting games came out of that elective. Fun School kind of took those games and also produced it in the market. And it was a very happy situation because I was there for 2 years and we kind of started building material around how to do that. And actually, at that time I left and joined Yahoo, and I became a researcher. I had my own lab. It was one of the first UX labs where we had eye tracker and stuff like that, and started looking into internet, trying to understand how people really use internet, and this was early 2007. Anyway, I don't want to get into the job side of it, but I started doing some game experiments by making some prototypes. And in early 2015, we founded a company called Puzzle Desh. Sindhu, my wife, along with two more partners, we founded Puzzle Desh and made some puzzles. And then we started selling them, see how it really works. And then, seriously, and only in 2016, we went into development of board games. Of what does it really take? And currently, we are in a situation where we are under production. We have some new board games to be published in next couple of months. So that's a quick snapshot of what we've been doing. It sort of touched design research, a lot of startups, entrepreneurship and strategy and things like that. You could ask me any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn or chat, WhatsApp, if you have any questions on how to go about, kind of maneuvering this whole interesting kind of things and how you build ecosystems for your production to happen. That's mostly the whole thing. This is my side hustle, and it all started in early 2014 when we kind of friends met in a coffee shop, obviously, and then we started talking about puzzles, and we're talking about how to produce simple puzzles. All the puzzles I remember when I used to play were of Disney and some sort of sceneries, and the quality used to be very bad. It used to chip, it used to flower, and I mean, we used to throw it back. And then we thought, okay, let's make a high quality puzzle, taking themes from India. And well, why India? So it's like we kind of figured out very interestingly, more than puzzles, we were really captivated with the visuals of the various art forms we have in our land. I love the things which are there around me, like the local culture, I love the way our languages sound. We are very much, me and Sindhu, both of us, we love the local flavor of things, because India is filled with diversity of millions and thousands of these such flavors, whether it's cooking or whether it's painting, whether it's the culture, the language, whatever you want to say. Just walk 60 kilometers and you will find a new language, a new dialect, a new culture, a new way of living, which is rich and interesting. So for us, we stumbled upon these beautiful traditional paintings, and we thought, let's start collecting them. So it sort of intrigued us, and it sort of made us curious about these visuals and how they really take their life. So we started collecting. We went around to traditional artists. We literally traveled to Tanjore, Mysore, all of these places, bought these paintings, we paid the artists, and then we kind of, interestingly, we started buying them. It's like a curation of things. And then we simply digitized them, and we took upon the idea of, let's make puzzles out of that and see how that works. And we made 60-piece puzzles and 500-piece puzzles, and we kind of made it in China. There were no puzzle makers in India. Even today, there's no good puzzle punching machines, which we have tried searching a lot in India. So we kind of incorporated a company in Singapore, and then with our partners' help, got some contacts from the manufacturers in China. And then we started trying to put these curated paintings with the names of the artists and their links to their works on this, to just to see how people will respond to it. This was like an early experiment. So we kind of started learning new skills: how to get the products, how do we ship it to US, how do we ship it to different parts of the world, what is the sales. A lot of things naturally sort of come in product design. Design is a very small part of it. After that is a lot of follow up with with distributors, vendors, and so on. And we started getting involved into that. So all of this we were doing in the evening, side hustle. My wife runs a full-fledged design UX studio called Tacit. But this was like our passion, so we kind of kept on making calls and trying to do the design. All this cover design, everything was done by us. We took some deep Indian colors which are of sari, and then deep colors of that, and then interestingly, this product started looking a bit of something related to India, because most of our products look very modern, and they behave modern. And we thought, is it just the design which sort of behave modern, or is it also the usage or the experience of it itself? And that was fascinating. When you make products, when we start getting a very local experience, then it's fascinating for us. I just want to do a quick check. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, Kiran, all good.
Awesome. Okay, great. So these were stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata, stories of Ganesha, and things like that. And we handpicked these stories, and we wrote those stories on the boxes to kind of tell them that there are very, very interesting stories. And when you make these puzzles, you can think about the story and do it. And then kind of it started giving. This was a set of products. We made 10 products, which were very unique cut. These are not American cut. This is Euro cut puzzles, which means that every puzzle piece is unique. None of them are similar. Similar to each other. So every cut is different. It means that it kind of a new interesting challenge on how this image gets built. For us, this was just an experiment. We never knew how people would take it. Soon, very interestingly, when we started selling, uh, people started connecting with it in a very interesting way. I remember people in US buying and for somebody who was pregnant and started doing this every month. For 9 months, she did 9 puzzles to present it to her baby. And then she said, these are beautiful gods, and she framed it and put it onto her daughter's room. And we were quite touched by it. She kept on writing to us. And then there was an elderly person. She's a lady of probably 35, and the lady is around 80. She's 85 years old. And Sindhu's correcting me here. She's really old, and she started buying each one of them every week. She would buy one puzzle, and then she would finish the 500s and then take a picture and send it to us. And then she started telling that to her, and it was organic. She started talking about it in her community, and they started reaching out to us, and the sales, kind of, started increasing. So people connected them. They wanted to show it to others. They wanted to do a kind of a meditative deep dive into puzzles. And then they started making images. They felt very challenged and one way, and they also felt very satisfied when they finished it, and they wanted to kind of feel. Some of them were literally meditative. They said, like, okay, I want to make this about God, and I want to, it's almost like the way I do other puja. I just need to put them all together and things like that. And it's like japa, right? The way you do it. And it was interesting. And we that forced us to really, we were not serious about it. We just thought, okay, it's one more product. But the way people really consume it, it's really interesting. And then other people started, they started challenging at home with their boys, and they were like, the idea of Indian paintings on jigsaw was something new for many. They thought that it's interesting. So this sort of motivated us to not to leave this. We literally had no time. We have a full-time day jobs, and a PayPal job is really a tough. I kind of hardly sleep, but these kind of messages keep me going. And then they started asking for more. They said that this is really beautiful, and how do we, and then they started asking us more and more. So the addictive, I want more of it, I want a little more challenge in it, so this is coming completely from users, and I want a story to really unfold in a certain way, and things like that. And then they started connecting to us, how, who are you and who designed this and stuff like that. So like, we are the designers, and they were like pretty, happy to connect with directly on WhatsApp, and we were trying to help them. So we were customer care, we were manufacturing, we were sales, we were, I mean, as you know, any startup, you are everything, right? So we started doing, and that's a lot of work, and in fact, it's very exhausting. So then we said, what do you mean by more? And then we started looking into designing board games. And board games is a completely different ball game. It's very different from puzzles. Then I was traveling in Europe last year. Every year I would go and I would attend these small fairs where Euro games are kind of displayed. I loved certain Euro games like Carcassonne, Catan, and there was a huge movement. What it means is that I think around 80s or 90s, modern board game movement started in Europe. They started making fantastic tile-based strategy games, which was little more than puzzle, where there were some rules, and you would actually develop a local story, or you would develop a local, kind of a tile-based strategy around certain gaming. So the Euro games were pretty interesting. I went and started reading around it, and then the whole movement went to US and it became big. And today it's a huge market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market, and they have fairs. There's something called Spy. There's a lot of right now today. It's really big, and lots of people are getting into it. There are thousands of games being made every year, and very interestingly, last 5 years have been the highest. Where the board gaming, I mean, everybody wants to design a board game. I mean, it's so fascinating. And today, I think over 2 to 3 thousand new games get published every year, which is like really you're spoiled for choice there. And we thought, well, why not do that in Indian context? We've been playing chess, we've been playing Ludo or any traditional classic, which we got introduced either by our aunts or our somebody from family, somebody who, like, okay, when we were kids, if they wanted to engage us with some good time, and they would have bought some games and given to us. We might have played with our cousins and stuff like that, right? So usually our aunts actually introduced us, at least me, to the board games, and we were pretty serious about it. I played a lot of chess with my cousins, and I thought, okay, let's see how we can bring in new types of games which have a theme rooted in Indian stories, rooted in Indian gameplay, rooted in the way we kind of understand the morality, a lot of dimensions in games, which I'll quickly walk you through, and create a new experience in the board games. And probably, somebody from Europe might also like it. So it's but there are thousands of now it's a very evolved industry. There's fantastic game designers from Europe, from America, from a lot of, even in India, it's started like a new way. There are gaming, groups where designers and publishers and manufacturers, we all kind of, I'm part of these groups where they help each other, and there's a genuine, exploration of, kind of bringing out interesting games in India, and which is interesting. So I thought, okay, let's explore a few, and what does it take to really build it. So we started with some design, with some themes like, what is kind of a game where you could build some trees. It's like a modular structure, and then whoever builds the trees first wins. It's a dexterity based game. There are a lot of games which we have tried. We must have prototyped around 80 to 90 games now. And then we looked into, games can be very logical, and it can be very calculative. It can be very plain, hard, strategic. But where is the juice in a game? In puzzle, it's very meditatively just putting pieces. But what is interesting in a game design is the way the juice really actually opens up. What sparks excitement, and what actually connects us with stories with each other is the crux of the way, the board games are to be designed. So we started making fantastic, beautiful visuals about forts and movements, and so these are all the prototypes we keep testing. Almost on a weekly basis, people come to my house. We do play testing. Our house has become like kind of a weekend board gaming center, almost a free coffee, free. Very good time with friends, and sometimes not even friends, because we just don't want to get biased views about it. We want some genuine things. So friends bring their friends, and you can reach out to us if you really want to play test some of our games. There are lots of games we've been developing. Anybody who loves board games, just come home. I mean that's what I was wanted to share today. So we started making these board games, and then kind of started discovering what really makes the idea of excitement. So, but we wanted to be a bit, we didn't want to do blind war games. It's not being moral, it just was boring for us. We liked a certain kind of games, between Sindhu and my kids, all of us. We like games which are building, where there's a mixture of art, dexterity, and native stories, and which are very highly visual. So we want to make games which we love doing. So what is a game? Sometimes, like, games are nothing but an extension of the way the puzzles pose challenges. They also are epic journeys, and they are like, you feel when you sit for a game. There's a game we have designed which almost takes 4 hours, which is larger than the movie we call, and it's so interesting. People literally stand up, jump, and shout, and it kind of, when they're winning or when they're losing, they basically do a lot of stuff. So they're basically epic journeys of the way you're building something. So everybody builds. It's very normal. Everybody builds, but a game allows you to build together and to sort of not compete, but to kind of be smart in the way you build with each other. So that's a new situation which you've created. It's not about just scoring points. It's not about just winning some trophies, but it's about the way you want to kind of talk about your own personality, how you want to build something, using the tools and small kit of board game components you have. So we kind of, there are some rules, we get some points and stuff like that. But we started testing these, which are mix of art. We very much, we spend a lot of time with artists to sit and make the faces, the paintings, and stuff like that to be as real as possible and stuff like that. So quickly, what's the journey? So where do those ideas come from? And it's very important to kind of get inspired or put your attention in something which excites you. Ideas can come from anywhere. It can come from the way on the top left is a hut. It was actually a house designed in the middle of a farm, and that inspired me to sort of think about a game around that region, because that whole house was built by native architecture, by native knowledge, and I thought it's fascinating to kind of bring that into the gameplay. And it's actually in the place called Harvard, and we kind of now are developing a game around it. So game can be very, it can be hidden in patterns. These are foot rugs where some elements are lost. It almost looks like Tetris for me. How does these clusters really get toned out? Why do they move away? Or on the next one is, you see the shells of the egg, and things like that, or any textures. It could be just a flower and the way the flowers kind of bloom, and it could be kind of a cityscape or sketches from my old sketchbook, or a temple, an inspiring symbolic story about a past. It could come from anywhere. It could come from traveling, playing, conversations, building, name it, right? So the whole thing is that you keep on looking for some sort of a starting point. It could be while you're cooking, actually. So I created a game for fractions, which my son uses. He kind of finished fractions, everything in a simple card game, where he kind of has different varieties of pizzas. And then it's not about just 1 by 4 or 2 by 3 of a pizza. It's also about how it tastes and why. It's about the holistic experience of how you deal with pizza, or it could be like the way you build. So these are on the right side. We just quickly do a rough prototypes from anywhere, and on the right side is like ink blots. I mean, basically ink, and there are games which we have found where we created from colors, and the colors start talking with each other, and that whole thing becomes into a story where two people start playing. So I mean, ideas can come from anywhere. And then we thought that it's not difficult at all in 2021, because we have internet. There's a load of knowledge. I would have spent days and nights looking out for resources, trying to understand how brilliant games are built, seeing hundreds of YouTube videos, trying to understand gameplays, buying them, sometimes smuggling into the house from trying to ask people from Singapore to get some board games for me, working on tabletopia, tabletop simulators. I mean, there are BGG is a great resource for you to start off. If you want to go and explore how board games designed, there are like hundreds of games there, and there are PDFs around how the game rules are written. You kind of can download, you can print them. Some of them I just reprinted. For me, it's very simple. I copy and recreate and understand how these things work and then destroy it and then go back to my story. That's a simple design process. There's no more funda. Everybody learns by repeating. I also repeat, I copy, but I destroy it. And again, I recreate it in a way which works for me. And that's when it becomes yours and sort of becomes personal. That's all this a design process. And there are millions of resources. There are Facebook groups where I keep sharing my new visuals for the game, get their feedback. It's a very active community, thousands of people doing board games everywhere in the world. It's a very live community to be part of. And sometimes I don't get the time to be really be there because of the day jobs and a lot of other things, but it's an exciting place, right? So what I do is basically take something and start making it. We do a lot of prototypes. There are literally no place at home. We're now moving out all the prototypes, hundreds of them, make them on different types of textures, boards and foam boards. And, this is game about, and the lots of games. So all you see is like, we sit and it's scissors and papers. I make it fast. We cannot sleep sometimes when we have a new idea. We make the prototype right there. I think now we have a prototyping speed of around 3 to 5 hours straight, and me and Sindhu can just jump in and quickly do the prints. And you have all kinds of these tools from Sketch to Photoshop to illustrators to quickly. I'm sure all designers can quickly get onto any tool and do it. So we brainstorm, go wide, go deep. Designing a game is sort of very exciting and very addictive. We start playtesting. We keep on scouting. My neighbor is completely bored with me because I keep on calling them for playtesting. We are like, and whomever we go, we kind of bring them home and try to get a view, trying to get a perspective of them. What do they feel about it, right? So, and Indians have a very different take on games compared to Americans, Europeans. I've done testing in Europe. I've done testing in US, but in India it's very different. So testing is really embarrassing experience. What you think a symbol will not work, what the shape which you have chosen might not work. People will have a completely different meaning. These are very arbitrary shapes, arbitrary symbols, arbitrary rules. Some people don't like rules. Some people love winning. Some people are very shy. They don't want to play because they get judged and so on. And yeah, and playtesting is extremely exhaustive. It's almost like 6 hours to 8 hours sometimes we do, and people play, and I need to observe all 5 hours, 6 hours. I don't ask any questions. I just keep watching them, and I sometimes kind of play with them. So it's a normal user testing. So UX designers, I mean, they're really in a good position to do this because it's pretty it's almost the same process. It's just the components and your ecosystem is a little different. Other than that, it's the same process. And we keep making notes. We go back to the drawing board even the day before we take it to the manufacturer, because we do not like about what we did in the last. I mean, somebody said that I didn't understand this, whatever Hindi word you're using, I don't like this Hindi word, I want something else. We keep on changing that and again keep testing it. So it's very exhaustive. It's playtesting, but we keep doing that. Um, and and once we start making games, it's very important. It's not. I don't want to use the word. Oh, you need to know your user target segment and the typical UX conference fundas. But what's important is like it's sort of interesting to see who will buy your creation. And why are they buying that creation? For us, when we made puzzles, it was elderly people who wanted to contemplate, spend some time, reflective time with themselves, because it's dexterity based. They wanted to feel the surface and then sort of go search for the piece and then put it, and then they kind of go into a meditative trance, and then they start talking about it. So it's so then we said that I don't want to design games for, like, say, 21-year-old boys, because I don't know. I mean, I've not spent time with their gadgets, and I do not know the content and the material of their life to really make a game for them. But I am beginning to learn about how to design games for women who are teenage, or, like, say, in the mid age, or even the elderly age. And the psychology of the way they really react to an object is very different from a hardcore gamer, like, who wants to, win, who wants to strategize. And the lady is like 70-year-old lady. She doesn't want to strategize. She's willing to give away her strategy to gain a person's love or affection or something like that. So it's interesting how, whom you want to, kind of create for, becomes a central pivot of the way you want to design the mechanics. So I'll come to what is the mechanics. Mechanics are the building blocks of games, and we use different mechanics to create engagements. And and then for me, the biggest insight was, like, watch and be observant about who will really buy your game, and spend more time understanding how they want to engage with your creation, and what is that they really want to do with it. And don't quickly change, and don't be, as like, just design just because you got an idea. We have thrown ideas. I just made a game on space exploration, which was very cool, but my audience was not for space exploration. I don't think they would enjoy understanding what's an accelerated or an apogee, acceleration happening somewhere near the orbit and trying to accelerate to a, in a moon speed or something like that. And I don't think that kind of content really would kind of engage the audience, which I was really keen to understand. So it's actually it's a personal inquiry into what kind of games you really want to build. So then we basically bring back these insights, and then we basically iterate, improvise, we reimagine, and make a list of thousands of bugs. I have a whole list of bug list. I have my own internal bug tracker. And then what's a game? Basically, there are game elements which are called as medium or elements. It could be a puzzle piece, a dice, or a card, or a board, or rewards, or pointing systems, or visuals about a component, or a visuals about a story about a component. These are all different elements. And then the whole important person is the player, and this player has to own that up. Basically, he should feel that I really love these, I want to have them in my hand, and then I need to do something with my hand, some sort of a magic, like the rolling of a dice, or putting some shells, or then trying to do something like that. Which, so the player becomes really, really important, on who is the player, and why does he like doing something. And then it becomes the core, and then the story kicks in, like, because the player likes to know about a story from a past. The story starts connecting, like, oh yeah, it's about a place called Jaisalmer, or it's a place, oh, it's all about a very fictitious, fantastic place, which people really don't know about, and I want to go into that world, which is like the mythia, like something which is mostly fictional in a sense, and people love to enter the fictional world. And I can start building those elements of fictional world, like, how does the sky look, how does the space look, how does the, kind of a surfaces look in the fictional world, and player connects to it, and he owns it up, and he'll probably, probably explain better to me than what I can explain. And the fourth component, which is really important, is the mechanics. Mechanics is, we call, the engine. The design of the engine is nothing but picking up the right kind of, actions which you want the player. I mean, the player whom you has owned your story, who has actually owned your elements, he needs to now be ready to participate with the kind of actions you want to create. So if it could be a throwing of a ball, I mean, action could be anything. I can throw a ball like really high, or it could be, it could be jumping, or it could be, climbing a mountain, or these are physical stuff on the board. It could be rolling a dice. It could be, bidding. It could be. There are hundreds of mechanics, and I can share sources on how these mechanics combine to really create the juice, which is the gameplay. The gameplay actually gets created due to these four main elements, and the gameplay is the essence of the game. And people remember the gameplay and the story together, and the players, and the whole event as a memory, and that's what becomes an experience. So Yeah, and that's the whole beauty of the board game design. And taking a game design itself is a year-long course. I don't think I can do justice getting into game design, part of it. But I can certainly, that could be another session sometime. If you're keen, you can just come and I can show how mechanics sort of works, right? So so far, and then most of the time we do very very terrible design, because there are 100% chances that we may go wrong. So we over design. Sometimes there are too many mechanics, there are too many components. Sometimes I unnecessarily make, I can show you, actually I don't know if you can see, I have hundreds and thousands of components which are sort of overdone. I don't know if you can see my hand, and I these are all waste. So 60% of my design is actually overdone basically. And I keep wondering, why do I over design? I mean, and it's not just me. I go, and when I'm doing architecture and when I'm doing UX design, somehow very interestingly we all over design. So we end up doing something complex, little more thing, because our head is probably wired that way, and we have too many decision points and uncertainty in the mind, that we cannot create that very simple elegant experience. So what I do is basically cut back. Yesterday we had a game, I cut back almost like 14 elements in it, and it became simpler. And we thought, is it too simple? But the gameplay still was working. So I basically destroy the game. I basically subtract. Whenever I do a game design, I always subtract at least 40%. So each prototype, after doing, means if the gameplay is completely working, I come back home and I sit back to see, can I reduce the game like by 40%, right? Overall, physically as well as mentally. What I mean by that is, can I reduce the box size? Can I reduce the elements? Can I reduce, because it reduces the cost basically. And then can I reduce the actions? Can I reduce the story elements here? Can I reduce? So this is the toughest part, where me and Sindhu spend a lot of time. We fight also in the night, like, hey, we want to keep it. Do we want to add or do you want to reduce? So for me, reduction is a design process. We keep doing that and make it as light as possible, right? Um, and and it's very interesting to really write a rule book. Rule book is actually the making of the game. So I enjoy writing the rule book, because that's where the game shapes in a very different dimension. I write it, I take a print, I kind of write in my bad English, then I take it to a copy writer, then he corrects only the English but not the mechanics. Then I send it to my friends. There are people who review it. My very good friends, they kind of review it. They send it back. They're like, "Well, this is making no sense. This is too complicated. This is crap. This I don't like this, right? And these illustrations are just bad." So whatever. So kind of rule book is a way you can actually shape the game, and it's another way of designing games in a sense. So we do spend a lot of time making a nice rule book here, right? Um, and and the idea of the role play, we are very conscious of, okay, if somebody is playing, what do they become into? Do they become a farmer and trying to grow the farm here? Will the player become into a king, or will the player become into an activist, or will the does he become into a banker or a cop? Can I create that role, we call it, and can we allow that player to own that role and see, like, I'm a banker. Just, it's very simple. You are a banker and you want to you want to kind of develop a village by some sort of a monetary system, and by not just lending, by kind of productive system. So there's a game around it, and then you are a banker, and there are other roles who's like, one is a farmer and one is a agent or something like that. So the roles are very important, and we are very conscious in our day and design, when we say that, hey, I mean, we can make the player feel like a banker, or a mantri, or a forest monk, or a or a superstar. It could be a Bollywood star, I mean, whatever, right? And that's something which we kind of build into the gameplay, and make it. So again, I was telling, playtest not just with your friends, with a lot of other people. Get ratings. We take ratings, physical, like we ask them to rate between 1 to 8 on, there are so many dimensions. We are very serious about it, and kind of check balance on that. So the idea is that, what is a good gameplay? It's very easy that people get bored. And nowadays, I mean, people have so many mediums. And in fact, I mean, we are directly competing with Netflix, and they're like amazing seasons out there. And why would anyone sit and play a boring board game? So as soon as I see the first 5 minutes, if they're still reading the rule book, and if they're still struggling to even start the game, I scrap the game. But the first 15 minutes, if people are picked up and they are started to seeing connections, and then they started to see the strategy, they are able to build something, they're able to, kind of leverage the way, they want to create on their own stuff, and they actually start screaming. And that's when, for us, screaming is the benchmark for a good playtest. We note down on that day, and like, these are all the screamers. Like Monsters Inc. basically literally makes people scream. And we don't produce electricity, but we kind of basically say, okay, that's a good playtest. I think screaming is our benchmark for a good playtest. We look out for control, giving player control. These are all concepts which takes kind of long time. What is a player control? The kind of things you give it in their hands to really kind of take decisions based on the actions they do, and how does that work with different stages of the game and levels of the game. And replayability, they should come back to play. I mean, I've taken my games and they said, no, I want to play that old game which you designed, not the new one. I want to try the old one. And we take the old one also, and if they say that I like the old one, then that's something which is, there is a chance for replayability. And the things like flow of the game, like how does it work? Does it start with gaining points, gathering territories, gathering resources? And what is the flow of the game? How does it sort of build? So all this can be sketched out. These are all part of game design. These are interesting ideas, and we kind of bring them all together in the board game design. So we kind of keep forgetting a lot of things. This is our, we kind of document, use a lot of tools in Coda, and we keep on, putting all the bugs and all the, material here, and we keep sharing it. After all that, we come to design. So so this is till now what I'm saying is all mechanisms. And according to some of our IDC professors, it's not even design. These are all product. They say, they have their own definition, but I like when they say, oh, you've not even started designing. Especially some of our old prof, they used to say, huh, I mean, you've done all that work, but where's the designs, right? So this is a time where we come and start working on shapes and artwork and color and texture and script and packaging. And we start working on different tiles and tile shapes and corners and edges and roundings and stuff like that. And that's the form creation part of it, which is interesting. That's something which takes a lot of time as well. And then we kind of put them into some concepts, and then sort of work with some visuals and see how the box looks and stuff like that. And then we kind of, that's the hardest part, is to get it done. So what is the talk with manufacturers? So the whole thing with manufacturing is to really get the person who understands our requirement and then optimizes for our need for the pricing we have, because we need to sell it in the market, which is not yet evolved, not even there. There are very few players and who are all trying new things. And I don't think the existing culture in India is to just play Monopoly or some Ludo and old games. And these are not that kind of games. These are going to be expensive. They are going to be a bit, they're going to really ask for your time and attention. I don't know whether people have that kind of time and attention, but if they really get hooked onto it, like, why do people listen to classical music for 3 hours? Why do people listen to, go look out for, a dance form for 2, 3 hours? So we are hoping that there is a kind of set of people who want to engage with it. So optimizing is the only kind of talk with manufacturers. We get to know our constraints, the thickness of the board, the weight of the box, the weight of the elements, the pricing of the elements. Been working with lots of vendors trying to reduce the weight and the size and the cost as much as possible, and yet making it look beautiful. It should not look cheap. And it's very challenging in Indian ecosystem. China is a lot more organized. Germany is fantastic. They have manufacturing companies just who do board design, very specific, highly specialized and creative, crafted machines for the making board games, like punches and cuts and all, like, or all evolved over 40 years. But in India, we are using old punch and stuff like that, and still it's an unorganized sector, and it's it's a challenge. It's very painful. We are going through some hell. Last 2 3 months has been like talking to manufacturers has been a a journey by itself. And then we kind of get it done. So once we have that, get your first copies. You feel very happy. People start. I mean, then you start putting it. And we didn't have a sales channel, so we just put up a quick website on our own. We made one, and then we put up payment gateway. And very interestingly, people start buying on it, and we were super happy. People buy on WhatsApp, people buy on website these days because of the COVID, and they also have time at home. They want to explore, and it's a Diwali season, and there are reasons why wouldn't I spend some time with some puzzles and things like that. So we kind of there's a lot of time which goes into marketing. We have not done any organic marketing. We don't have the bandwidth today. We are just doing some simple Facebook, not even ads, simple Facebook post, Insta, and stuff like that. And we have one and WhatsApp. And we just send a link, and they're coming to the site, and they're putting their credit cards, and they're like putting the trust onto our website, and they're buying on that because, and they are giving fantastic reviews. We have all 5-star reviews on Google, and we are super happy about it, and we want to keep up that quality and see how that works. So that's something which was super. We don't have a team to kind of take care of website and marketing. We are hoping to kind of not even thinking of raising money. I don't know how it works, but we just want to make sure that we recover back our investment. that's and that's something which is that's our benchmark right now. I know it's not thinking big, or I don't have the bandwidth to think big right now. I just want the games to come over, people to play, spread the word, make it organic, and probably after we have a breather time to really think about bringing larger games and stuff like that. But right now it's just a dipstick experiment, right? So quickly, so by doing that, what is that all we are learning? So I think I just wanted to just give you a quick view of what we've been learning. Players are very conscious. They're very conscious about their image. And it's very interesting. Like, they are conscious in their own family. Like, they have an image of themselves, and that others may judge them. So we have to be very careful in diffusing that tension. Players love control. How to design control in the game is not by just giving a lot of options, but trying to give it's control. Is just imagine like you're rowing a boat. Uh, Rowing a boat is just one action, but you are in control of the whole object, which is the boat itself. And that's what I mean by a relative control, not operational control. So how to design the relative control of the whole game is an amazing experience. It's an art by itself. The idea of that feeling of what that am I in control in my game. So we keep asking that, are you in control? I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, yeah, I can still win, and I can navigate through this problem. I know that players are ahead of me, but there is this whole card which comes in the middle and changes the whole game. So I can kind of do things there, and I still have hopes, things like that, right? And people like to showcase, whether it's a small action or an expression, or whether it's an idea. They like to showcase, and they try to find some common things of interest between players, and they connect, and because of that, the connection happens. So when they were playing our games, we were looking at why do people pick the game together. They usually go for shopping together, in the sense like, I'm going to buy this, you're going to buy that. I knew in my high school days, there were only few in my classroom where we loved asterisks. So others didn't even know about, like, others didn't really care. Like, others, they were like, but there were like some 6 7 of us who were like asterisk fans, and we loved asterisks. We loved the story. We loved the kind of cultural stuff he brings in. And then the kind of Gustini and Udezo, like one of our favorite, they bought things of their land so beautifully, and which we could relate in our land. And that is something like finding things of common, and we are still thick friends. We share aspects. Out of the 8, 6 of them are our parts of the world, but we are still connected. So that's something which the board game can bring together. They can bring some people of common interest together in an interesting way. And then players get easily bored with weak mechanics. What I mean by weak mechanics is like, chance, like, you just do a roll of, keep doing, sort of, it becomes boring. So because there is every step in a game, and every step should create kind of a higher motive to go to the next step. Like imagine just if you really like it, there are the possibility till the last move is that it's like you start coming to know that you're losing when only after like say 50% of the play, not in the first or the third, and you don't get bored because the possibility of that combinations are so high that you get engaged, you get hooked. So people very get bored with weak mechanics, just rolling dice, just adding some numbers. I don't think that really works, and we're pretty conscious about that. And players prefer gameplays based on their conditioning. So, I mean, not everybody likes the rules of the game. They like, I mean, I kind of, they would have had a background of like, say, playing football or like, say, trying to get some of them feel competitive, but they're really not competitive. They think that they can win, but internally they feel that they would lose more than like actually the guy who is losing. He's like really cool about it because he's like, I mean, I know I can build it up. So the different types of personalities which come when you actually put the gameplays, and we try to put. It's very hard to kind of bring a universal gameplay because personalities are so different, and that's why it's important to understand whom are you designing for, who is the player, and how old is she. And it's, I mean, I don't like the word like persona, and like this just made it into a templatized, the idea made like it's really about who really is the player and what are their gameplays which they really like. And players enjoy teaming up. They love ganging up, making coalitions. They love gathering tokens, claiming territories, hoarding resources, taking chances, trying to challenge a chance and stuff like that. And stories connect only when the gameplays are set up for narration. So what I mean by that is that story, you forget stories in the middle of the game because it gets onto the kind of a logical framework of winning, losing, gaining points and stuff like that. But basically the story starts adding in because you need to build a territory of something, because there's a demand in that locality in a certain way because four people are dependent on you. So these are the conditions which come, then the story kicks in, that a farmer or a doctor or some players who will kind of get dependent on you, and then the whole idea of you having to kind of direct all of them becomes interesting. And that's when the stories start connecting. It's not in just the introduction or not in the end that you became the hero of Indus or the hero of the Harappans or something like that. No, the stories really connect during the gaps when the players are really playing in the middle. That's when the good stories in the gameplay should really connect. And it's very hard. I mean, we have a note for it. It's not easy to do that. We are still learning. These are very early board games. So we are no experts in it. We are just novices. And we are just, I mean, there are people who have done 80, 90 games, and we are just with the first 20, 30, I mean, not even there. So cool. I mean, that's what we are learning. So the first 15 minutes is all about creating the winning paradox. What makes you win, and what are the ways in which you can win, and how do you bring towards a closure of the game, and how do you know in 15 minutes that what is the game is going to shape like, and you will be able to control the game that you want. It's not about, okay, I'll try it in the next round. That I don't think that should really happen. And there are this whole idea of rewards and setbacks. I think I'm taking, it's almost 4:57. I think I'll take 3 more minutes. It's almost done. I just thought, these are some interesting kind of learnings we had. So we designed rewards and setbacks. These are constraints as well as opportunities in the game. And it's not some theoretical stuff. So the rewards are designed because that keeps the narrative of the game going, not because you want to win some tokens, or it's not about it's like, okay, I do some small thing and like and you get something. No, it's not like that. It's you are doing something with micro rewards, and because of that you're actually building an epic journey. And that's to build an epic journey. Imagine that you want to climb Himalaya, or you want to take a journey towards that, and every day you need to take some small steps. You need to feel happy at the end of the night that I kind of walked for whatever 10 kilometers, and then I need to take a break. I'll get some nice noodles. So I get a noodle, right? And I'm very happy with just hot nice thupka or a noodle when I'm going for a trek in the night. I deserve it because I walked for 10 thing, and that's the reward. And spending that time in the night next to the moon or whatever, next with your friend whom you really care about, and spending time that together, that's a reward. And that's what I mean by it's not just token points, but it's these are different types of rewards and feel of it, right? Which matters, and that keeps the epic journey going on. And we design difficulty level where learning happens, challenging is kind of met, and then certain replay of challenges happen. We are not fully into doing a lot of difficulty levels because even we are learning, we do not know how to do that. um, and when people play board games, there are some unsaid agreements which happen between the player and the game. One is the suspension of yourself into the world of the game. Imagine Catan is all about getting into the game about this a place called Catan, or Carcassonne is a place in some part of Europe where you enter that and you start seeing forts. And then Ticket to Ride is all about entering the trains. And so there's a world which gets created, which is actually a fictional world, and you are okay with it, and you love to kind of navigate that world in the myth. And basically it's a lie, and you're very okay with the lie, and you're trying to find some truths in the lie, and you kind of go and journey, and you walk around and you suspend yourself in that kind of a zone, right? And that's an agreement. I mean, why would I mean it's just as good as reading a fiction novel. Why you kind of agree with the author that you're okay with that context which the author sets in, telling that, oh, this is Kerala, this is a beautiful setting. Arkenaren talks about Mysore, and you're actually okay with Mysore. I mean, you're basically not in Mysore, but there's an agreement, and that, oh, okay, I'm with you here. And it also goes into some ideas like moral clarity. What I mean by that, there are rights and wrongs. People are so conditioned on rights and wrongs. Should I kill, not kill? Should I support, not support? Should I build, not build? Should I cheat, not cheat? Should I actually support? I mean, kind of gang up or not gang up? So game creates this tension about this moral conditioning, which the players already have. And we are trying to, it's actually very early notes I have. This whole moral clarity or moral zone people go in are very interesting. And I'm trying to see how. I don't have the time to decide. I would really do a research on its own. Why do people take decisions? Because I remember my aunt telling that, oh, you can play chess, but you're not supposed to kill anybody. You need to go and corner the king and win without killing any soldiers. Or you shouldn't kill a weaker pawn. You can kill only the camel to camel, or the elephant to elephant, or a rook to rook, whatever, but not a rook to a soldier. And that completely changes the gameplay. And it was so interesting. We said, no, this is bullshit. And we were kids. And then, but she said, no, this is interesting. Why don't you try that? You create a gameplay in chess in such a way that you do not exercise a hierarchy of positions, right? And that's a moral rule book which was created. And I was fascinated with that gameplay. I remember playing that with my cousin, and we had so much more fun than the normal chess gameplay, which is like scoped by the British and the old Indians, or whatever you want to call it. This is a new interesting gameplay which was created by my aunt in a game, and we were very happy that we could play that game, right? And then there are mutually assured possession of components, territories, and things like that. It's a whole zone by itself. I don't want to get into that. I'm trying to see. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Let me just finish just by saying, yeah. We believe we have the last two slides. Dan, do we have time, or
Yeah,
let me know?
yep.
Oh, cool.
No worries, Kiran. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So I'll just talk about few ideas here, like which learning from the user themselves. What we mean by that is like we were quite kind of intrigued by the idea of what is modernity. So I think in India the modernity never kicked in. It's kind of a claim which I feel means that we just bought things from the West and we started using it in our own Indian ways. Like you take a car, nobody puts a seatbelt. We just like can sit on any other kind of, or you take you can put a satellite to Mars, but you still do the puja. Why are you still doing the puja when the rocket is still going on the top? I mean, it's completely. So I think the science was just borrowed, and modernity never kicked in as a movement. We feel we are actually a postmodern, kind of India. It means that we have our traditional psyche and conditioning, and we just use all the tools. Like you take the way. I mean, I'm just seeing all the things around my house. I put like there is a wash basin or there is a soap, and I don't think the idea of a soap. I mean, that's what I can see from in front of my eye. Like I see a soap actually, and the idea of a soap came to really kill the germs in during the plague times as an idea to clean up the plague in the France, and the soap was the whole idea of germ thing. But that never came like that in India. It was bought by some modern doctors, yeah, and said, okay, everybody has to put a soap, and some of them, or the life boy said, you will look beautiful, right? Lux and Lifebuoy just said, okay, you will look fair and you whatever, right? And then Indians are okay with that, like we'll look fair and we'll whatever, right? And so what I think is that the modern thematics doesn't work really well, and the local imagination is rich and it's very interesting, and we can do wonderful local designs if we can capture. I think the ad world and the cinema world has done a beautiful job of it. They've used the camera and still put the old stories. They've used the modern. I think what is Bahubali is like amazing new technologies thing with a very old story, and the story is still about the king and how he wants to go back. I mean, the story is extremely a kind of a local imagination, and I think these cinematic kind of these guys are able to do it quite well than design. Somehow we seem to feel like, okay, let's get German, like let the corners be very, I mean, we are like too this one about it. But I kind of question this whole thing about, are we really using our products in a modern way at all? I don't think we are, and we use it in a postmodern sense. So that's one thing we are learning in game design too. Like postmodern mechanics really work. What we mean by that, we have made a list of things which kind of work for players in India, and we kind of use players' imagination. So they have more compelling situations. They can imagine far more superior than you do. You just give them a tool and just leap through into their imagination, and you can say, oh, they are saying like 10 times more than what you do, because you're basically your baggage of manufacturing, your baggage of so many things are there, and you're tired basically as a person. And then there are things with going with these are normal things. These are other UX stuff which most of the UX designers really know. And designing the play turns, that's something interesting. Should we make it difficult? Should we make it easy? What is an agreeable difficulty? So we kind of look into an agreeable difficulty kind of. It means, is it tough for you? Is it tough for me? Is it tough for the player? Is it tough for the next player? Again, there's an agreement which happens on the difficulty there, and sort of players seems to kind of okay over there, and they kind of get into the game. And of course, we listen to players' reaction. They have, of course, we should never listen to the solutions. Usually, players give really bad solutions, but they love talking about solutions. I like to ask them about their emotions. What did they feel? What is the kind of feeling they were having in second round, but like third round, stuff like that, and also a deep dive into their basically personality. So I think these are some interesting stuff we learned. So just what is a board game design? Is it designing a journey, an epic journey? Is it a challenge? Is it a learning tool? Is it a situation for somebody to get to know each other? So these are a mixture of that, and that's what we are today at. Just want to close with some new board games we are designing. This is a game called Hidden. It's called Unlock the Mystic Worlds. This is based on an artist's set of 76 cards of his paintings. So we've taken his paintings and then tried to kind of interestingly create a gameplay where you start learning about the form of the painting, about the worlds which are hidden in the painting, and there is a scoring system to really identify the hidden worlds which are there in the painting. If you can identify that, you basically win the game. And we are very kicked up about this right now. We love this game, and the playtesting results have been very interesting. Not all of them like it. It's again personality based stuff. Very few people like it, and we need to be very very careful in making sure it's easy for them to and accessible for them to buy and play. So I don't think everybody would love this. So, but it's interesting. And another game on Humpy. We loved Humpy. We've been going to Humpy every year. It's a fascinating, ruins of Vijayanagara. We worked with artists, and we kind of mesmerized by the stories which it weaves during the 13th century. It starts with of finding of a jewel called as the sun jewel, and it kind of mysteriously gets found in Hampi after it was lost by, actually it was a jewel by the sun, and then it was long before it had gone in the hands of Krishna and Jambavanta, and then it goes to Dwaraka, and Dwaraka gets a tsunami and it gets lost, and then you come. It's a fascinating, and you put a lot of tiles, and then you create Humpy each time, and you find the jewel, and once you find the jewel, you feel like, oh man, you're like in full control, and basically kind of go through the gameplay. So that's another game we are working on. We should release in next couple of months, hopefully. We're just fighting with the costing with manufacturers, and hopefully we should release it as early. That's it. Any questions? Please visit our website, tacitgames.in. There are a few puzzles there for you guys to kind of buy and like basically go try. And you can also reach out on WhatsApp on this number and book your, if you like. So that's something which I wanted to share today.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Kiran. I think that was a great insight. I think definitely we would at least got some insights on what the nuances goes behind this board design, right? So I guess we are 10 past the time, but I think we'll just take a couple of questions. I think the first thing for the benefit of the audience, since most of the audience here are we come from a digital design background, right? So let's say if one of us get inspired and they want to take up this board design game, right? So what is that they need to be prepared of, right? I mean, because is this a totally a different kind of a mindset and a psyche that has to be here? Yeah. So any thoughts on that? So how will the digital designer, when they want to come into because you also had the typical kind of transition, but you had the advantage of being a product designer, right? But if somebody who's purely in the digital space and who wants to take up this board game part, so some quick tips for them?
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, first thing I mean, you can actually make games with simple paper and scissors. So that's all you need. I mean, if you want to do, I mean, you don't call it paper prototype. Obviously, it's a paper prototype, but the whole fun of the game can be done with one scissor and paper. My daughter does it. She makes her own games, so anybody can make a game. So it's so simple, it's so easy, and it can start with as simple as paper and a scissor, or a bead, or a anything. We even put some flowers, and you just need some objects, right? You just need some props. Secondly, the idea of like components are just cheap, dirt cheap to do. It's You can just start off just right now, and you can start making games, because it's paper and beads are like, hardly our prototypes cost like $200, $300, right? This is not some product design, prototype which costs you in 30,000, 40,000. And later that you need to be kind of patient in developing it. So first thing is concepts, and second thing is quickly jump into, there's a loads of information, as I showed you. I'll kind of try to share all that on the WhatsApp, board game geeks and stuff like that. There are a hell of a lot of information on how to start getting to the next level. How to design strategy, how to design a, how does the component becomes scalable, how does it, has multiple things, stuff like that. So that's also pretty easy. So you have all which was not there 10 years ago, very interestingly. So this is a great time to make board games. It's so simple, so easy. And the third thing is hell a lot of playtesting, and then getting into the community with right set of questions, right?
Mhm.
So it's important, like, what creates the excitement, or what is the feeling? I mean, these are the kind of questions which we need to start off talking at the early stage of game design.
Right.
After that comes to the production. So production, we are all helping each other. There's a fantastic community. Somebody makes a meeple or a small, wooden piece. We share our rates. We make sure we put our investment numbers also there. I'm investing 2 lakhs in it, 3 lakhs in it. Or so your early investment to make your own board game, I think you can easily make 1,000 copies in 3 lakhs, right? So I mean, if you have savings, just put it and you can sell it for 20 lakhs. So which is lucratively interesting. If your game is beautiful and you sell it, and I mean, it's better than the stocks in terms of investment, right? So stocks don't. So I put like 3 lakhs, you hope for getting 20 lakhs. So which makes sense in terms of money. So
Yep.
that comes the economics of it. It's very cheap, and in a sense, even to develop it, but also to work with the ecosystem. India is just not refined for it. I mean, China and stuff like that. So but we are all small publishers, right? Large publishers have huge systems and they talk very differently, like say Funspool, or like say folks like Zedman Games, or these guys. These are really large, but small guys can quickly try with very less amount of money and investment, and they can easily release stuff in the market. And I'm wondering why we shouldn't release every. I mean, it's that easy to do these days. And if anyone is interested, reach out to me. I'll share all the resource, manufacturing. I mean, we want this whole community to really build. We
Mm-hmm.
want more people. At the end of the day, it's good for the community. More people
Yep.
play,
Yep. Absolutely.
yeah, and it's more people get imaginative, and these are very interesting political. It actually questions the government. It actually questions the way things are being organized. So my Humpy game actually questions why we have a democracy like this,
Mm-hmm.
and and why power shifts between. So it's actually a very subtle and sarcastic take on our reality, which is in fiction based, right?
Yep.
So yeah, which I think is interesting. So it's pretty easy. I feel just start off.
Sure. Yep. So we have a quick question from audience as well, right? So, is the process of the board design? I mean, a physical design was today. It's all about digital, right? It's all like a lot of computer games are there, right? And even that are like it's going to have multi players kind of a thing. So, how do you see these two as? Can both of them borrow? Who's borrowing concepts from whom? Or I mean, is it like fair statement to say that the process wise it's a little similar, or is it significantly different in a physical board game kind of environment?
No, I feel that significantly different,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, because my experience has been I've tried working with a couple of engines, like Warcraft, or say Diggers. The way the whole computational design for games came, the whole history is very different. So the starting points are very different, right? Board
Mm-hmm.
games came out of the historical, from Harappans also had board games, and it was and physical had a thing. The strategy was very different. Chess came and evolved and through cultures, and we have chess to then. So if you look at the Tetris, which started somewhere in some village in Russia, right? It moved on from, and then it went on to Poland. It used to carry in those floppy disks, right? And they used to smuggle these floppy disks from Russia into the Poland, and then it went into the UK, and it became famous as a Tetris from there. Okay, but it was actually done a couple of years ago in somewhere. Some programmer would do it. Now the programmer working on a game is little different from a board game designer working on a game. Mechanics could be very similar, but the your material, raw material, is coding there basically, right? So your raw material here is all about physical movements and actions, right? So if you're completely comfortable with raw material using as code, and you use engines on it. So if you use engines, then everything else, the imagination, the story, and all of it is very similar. And today we have huge engines. People, I mean, for online gaming, you just need to get on an engine, right? You don't have to reinvent the old mechanisms. Everything is there. You work on a couple change, you take some patterns on certain changes, and you start working on artwork, and then start doing your coding, and just like do it. But I feel board game. I've not spent so much time online because I don't. I mean, though I used to code C a long time back, I've not done that. Yeah, I've done physical, so I can only kind of talk for it. So board games is more about the kind of desire to bring people together physical, and not because now we are all virtual. It's not just that. It's just to knowing the person's personality. I mean, I've played games where people get angry very quickly. Okay, it gets onto a fight, and I've seen people where, especially men, they start fighting, and they're like, they're literally CEOs of companies, and they're like, one small move in a board game, they start fighting. I mean, serious fights, okay. And these are something which you can't possibly get in an online thing, though,
Yep.
because it's
Yep.
there. But
Mhm.
so these are differences are there because of the raw material is very different.
Superb. I think we still have a bunch of questions. I think definitely people can follow Kiran and test it. So yeah, the interest of time. So yeah, so I think we wish you all the very best. And yeah, it was wonderful hosting you, Kiran. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Yep.
so much for listening. Really appreciate. Reach
Yep.
out for any questions, man.
Yep. Yep.
Great talking to you. Yeah.
Yep.
Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everybody. Have